It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in. Another edition here of Musso at the Box, presented by Got Lit Light Installers. LSU, they defeat UNO on Tuesday night, 11-1. Gave you our immediate reaction and recap to that one as soon as the game went final. Now all attention turns towards this weekend and a trip to Austin to face a top 10 ranked Texas Longhorns team, which is coming off of a midweek loss to UTSA. They dropped that game Tuesday night in extra innings, 8-7, 12 innings to be exact. Actually got home from the box on Tuesday, picked it up in the bottom of the eighth, watched it through. So the last 4.5 innings or so, really well played game, really kind of fantastic game that we can talk about plenty, more, getting a little bit of a look at Texas going forward. I want to do something particular today, though, that has to deal with a little bit more of a big picture and things that have surprised me with this LSU baseball team so far now through 22 games. They've won 16 straight. They sit at 22-1. A lot of the things they've done, I think you could look at and go, okay, yeah, I mean, that's expected, but probably expected to some extent. And then there's things that are, okay, wow, that's really different, that kind of just surprise. So that's kind of what I want to do today. Smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed up on the YouTube channel and your favorite podcast app. Just search Musso at the box. Hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. If you're watching, the handle scroll below you. If you're listening, Twitter X at Musso Matthew. You can find me on Facebook as well. And, without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive right into it. So this conversation got sparked about a week ago. It was after LSU beat Xavier, and we were doing our immediate reaction live stream right after the game, recapping it, everything that went down. And if you've seen them, towards the end, I always ask for questions from the chat. If not, well, I always ask for questions from the chat. And one came in, and damn it, I cannot remember the guy's name. So I apologize for that. And I told him I would get to it on our question and answer show, and I didn't. But I'm going to get to it right now. And he asked me, what is the biggest surprise to me so far from this LSU team? And keep in mind, this was, right after that Xavier games. They had finished pre-conference. They were heading into the SEC. It was a great time to ask that question. And it stumped me. Like, it really did. In the moment, without having time to really think about it, I had nothing. I was at a loss for words, and that does not happen to me very often where I'm at a loss for words. So obviously since then, I've thought about it a little bit more, watched maybe a little bit more intently to see, okay, what's jumping out to me that's just very, very different. And I've come up with a couple different answers that I kind of want to go through here today on what I think are the biggest surprises to me so far for LSU this season. And I think it's still a pretty good time to do this because while they're not, starting SEC play, the show at the very beginning, and they're going into their toughest test of the season so far against the Texas Longhorns. There's a few on offense, one with the pitching staff, and I guess kind of one overall. So 4 that we'll run through here a little quickly. The thing that has jumped out to me first and foremost from an offensive standpoint is Jared Jones. And I know a lot of you maybe thought I was going to go Derek Curiel there. And I know a lot of you, when I say Jared Jones, might be like, huh? What are you talking about? We knew Jared Jones was the best offensive player on this team. We sat and talked all throughout preseason that for LSU to get where they wanted to go, he was going to have to be the best offensive player on this team. You were going to have to find the protection for him so he could be afforded the opportunity to be that guy. All those conversations that we've had. And, we know what Jared Jones is, right? That's a phrase we've all said. I've said it. I'm guilty. I know what Jared Jones is. I know what he's going to give me. And that's exactly why I'm surprised by this. Because what we know Jared Jones to be through 2 years is a career 303 hitter who hits a lot of homers, and there's a lot of swing and miss. And that's been very, very effective for LSU. And he's a vacuum over at first base. And that's been very, very effective for LSU. Jared Jones is a freshman, hit 301. Jared Jones is a sophomore, hit 304. He's right there, tick below, above 300. That's what he is. When we were going through all the draft process last summer with Jones, the reason I thought he would go is because we know what he is. Big, power-hitting, right-handed first baseman who can get you a tick above 300 on the season average. That's not going to be a very high draft pick, but it gets you selected, and you could go start your career, see if you can improve a little bit, make it up to the show, and go. I didn't think there was much he could do to come back and improve his draft stock. I think what I said was, and I didn't go back and listen, but I said it a bunch of different times, so I'm pretty confident this is what I said. The only way I thought that could happen, like him improve his draft stock coming back, is if he came in and hit 380 for a season. And I said, I don't know if he's capable of doing that. We just haven't seen it. Well, right now, Jared Jones is hitting 424. And he's still leading you in RBI, and he's still leading you in home runs, but the bat to ball is what has stood out most of everything. We know what Jared Jones is, right? This is different than what we've known from him his first 2 seasons at LSU. And I'm surprised. And this is a guy right now who can improve his draft stock. I don't know if it's enough to get him into the first round. Probably not. Just because, again, he's a big right-handed hitting first baseman, and there's a bunch of those. Like, there's a lot of guys with that skill set. But what can get him maybe up into the second round is the batting average and the low strikeout total and the more walks than strikeouts. And all of that has to do with bat to ball. I went and crunched some numbers, went back and looked. Through 22 games as a freshman, so in 2023, the championship year, 22 games as a freshman, Jared Jones struck out 30 times. We all talked so much a season ago about how he improved, the swing and miss as a sophomore, and he did. Through the first 22 games in 2024, Jared Jones punched out 18 times. Now it's even better. Through the first 22 games here in 2025, Jared Jones has punched out 12 times. And again, the caveat is he's got 15 walks. He has more walks than strikeouts. He's using the entire field more than he ever has at LSU. You saw some opposite field home runs from him a season ago, but you've seen 3, I believe 3 this year. But you've also seen him be able to beat the shift with base hits the other way a couple of different times. He did it on Saturday night. Bases loaded, spot he could go up there and try to launch. And he tried to launch on the first pitch, and he was out in front of a curveball. And then he settled in immediately after that, was within himself, remembered the plan, remembered the approach, and he's a veteran, and he lines one over the second baseman's head, goes backside, hits the inside of the ball, and it was awesome to see. That's where the improvement really lies there with Jared Jones. Think of Dylan Cruz. Think of Tommy White, the 2 most recent examples of guys who just hit for huge average. They use the backside of the field more than anybody. Not just on homers, but on base hits. And you're seeing that from Jared Jones here in this year. And yes, I'm surprised, even though we talked about this a little bit in preseason, that I noticed, okay, he's going backside more. I'm surprised he's been able to sustain it this long kind of throughout, but it shows the growth, the maturity. Like, Jared Jones is arguably the most improved player on this baseball team, which is scary because coming in, we know what Jared Jones is. He's your best offensive player returning, and he arguably is the most improved. And that's just awesome to see. because what makes it so great is the other parts of his game that we all know and love. Those haven't waned. Again, still leading you in homers, still leading you in RBI. He's fielding 992 over at first base, and he's been a career 990 guy over there. All of those things are still there. But the average is now really ticking up. So I'm very surprised. Very, very surprised by that. Number 2, offensively, the consistency of the depth. The consistency of the depth on this team offensively has surprised me. I sat here preseason when we were doing the offensive preview, and I said something that I had said plenty. It has to come together faster than it did a year ago. And it did that. But the caveat thrown out was they have plenty of guys, and you're going to see them rotate, and they need to settle. They're going to want a platoon. They're going to want to do that, but they need to find their guys and go forward with that. And how I punctuated that thought was, and there's enough of them on this team that LSU has no excuse not to put out a good lineup. And y'all, that's really easy to say, just looking at the personnel and watching them through scrimmages and seeing certain guys have good days and all those things. It's real easy to say. It's a whole other thing for them to be able to go out there and execute it. And so far they have. This is not an easy thing to do, what LSU is doing offensively right now, where you have guys go to the ballpark and they're not certain, positive they're going to start this day or that day or whatnot, but they know I'm probably going to get an at bat, so that helps. But platooning that much, I don't really want to use the word tinkering, because they're not tinkering. Like, they have a very set plan on how how they want to execute this, and it's working, and it's working to a T. And that's credit to Jay Johnson and his staff right now, but it's also credit to the players for being committed to that, knowing they might not start every day, but my number's probably going to be called because, look, there's a situation that coach has prepared me for in this game that might arise that I'm going to have to go in there and execute in. And in a transfer portal era, that is not easy to get your kids to do. Everyone wants to play. And Jay's used the phrase throughout the preseason and this season that when the guys are in there, it's about them understanding you're helping us win. You're not in there to improve your playing time or anything. You're in there to help us win. And that message has certainly taken so far with this group. And that is massively impressive. Look at a guy like Ethan Fry. Fry's played in 18 of the 22 games. He's got 36 at-bats. He's hitting .417 with 4 homers and 14 RBIs. And a few of those have been pretty clutch. Think back to the game against Dallas Baptist. Sunday against Missouri. He's turning in great at-bats. He's finally healthy. You're seeing the power, but it's consistent. John Pearson hasn't been as much as you'd want to see. He was on deck Tuesday night when Fry hit the homer. He was going to get the AB. 12 games. But as a freshman, in just his 9 at-bats, he's made the most of them. He's homered. He's driven in 5. He's hitting .444. I mean, you can keep going. Tanner Reeves. He's been in and out of that lineup with Braswell. But he's hitting .344. Josh Pearson. Even Mick Paul. Paul's played in 15 games. In his limited at-bats, he's hitting .286. That's just not something I thought I would see. And while I said you have no excuse, to not put out a good lineup with all the options that you have, and like I said, that's an easy thing to say. They've proven it. They've proven it. Now for sure, they have no excuse. You've got your guys. And there's a lot of them, and they're all producing. And even in conference play. Again, you look at a guy like Braswell, who struggled early in the season, hit .333 the first conference weekend. You look at you go a guy like Jake Brown, who'd kind of been in and out of the lineup a little bit, 400 first conference weekend. There's options there. So, that has absolutely very much surprised me. Let's get to the other two here momentarily. But first, let me remind you about Gotlit Light Installers. GotLitLights.com. Go there, get your quote. It's not just Christmas lights anymore, but as I tell you, it is the same great service, relationship building, standard and expectation that they started their company on when it was just Christmas lights. Now it is expanded. Permanent premium landscape lighting for your outdoor area, whether it's your front or backyard, outdoor kitchen, pool area, got lit lights. Maybe you just updated and you want to illuminate your space. Everything looks better when it's lit. That's why you go to gotlitlights.com and you work with Derek and his team, whether it's a private event that you're hosting at your home or your business, wedding receptions. Maybe you are an event planner. Maybe that is your business and you need lights for the events that you host. Gotlitlights.com. Custom design, cut to fit, never a loose light hanging when you use Got Lit Lights. Any private event you have, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, wedding receptions, graduation parties, Got Lit Light installers, gotlitlights.com for your quote. Follow them on Facebook as well. Tell them you heard it right here on Musso at the Box. Some of the inconsistencies in the pitching have surprised me. This is in the same vein as the offense, where we heard they have so many options, right? Oh, they have so many arms. How's the pitching going to be, Musso? Well, they got a lot of arms. And it wasn't just me. It was anyone you asked. How's the pitching going to be? They got a lot of arms. They've got enough options. They're going to craft the staff. And I still believe that. But with the stuff that's on this staff, with how many options they have, I am surprised that there maybe hasn't been as much dominance from the staff. And let me be clear. That is not to say that they have pitched poorly. They have not. LSU is pitching to a 3.3 ERA right now. They are leading the SEC in strikeouts. The opponent through 22 games is still hitting sub 200 against LSU. They have pitched well. But there have been times that they have not. And some of those times have been great enough for a cause of concern. You've brought in some transfers that you thought would really compete, and those guys have been off to some struggles. A guy like Connor Binge, who's a veteran from a really good program in Dallas Baptist. It's been a bit of a struggle for him, and inconsistence for him. There's been struggles. There's been high moments. But that's a guy that you're really going to count on because of the veteran, and you see him as a leverage guy. Same thing with Connor Ware. Connor Ware's a guy who was LSU's best guy through the fall and much of spring when it came to outside of Cade Anderson. In the fall, he was their best guy. That's a guy you were really going to count on and thought, okay, maybe he can even be a starter. Maybe he can come out of the bullpen. He can fill so many different roles. And it's been a bit of a struggle for him at times. He had two great outings to start the season, some rough ones in between. The last two, while they haven't been perfectly clean, he's gotten the job done and put up zeros. But that's the stuff that's surprised me. Has it surprised me that William Schmidt's been awesome? Maybe a little this early, but he's also gone through growing pains, which I expect from the freshman. Same thing with Maverick Rizzi. Same thing with Cooper Williams. Now, Casey Evans just been phenomenal. And you're going to get one of those guys every now and then. But overall, top to bottom, when you saw how dominant they were to start the season, we knew that wasn't going to be sustainable. But towards the back end here of these first 22 games, there's been a few hiccups mixed in between there. And I thought heading into this Texas series, you'd have a few more defined roles than you do. You know the guys you want to use. They just have to pick up that consistency. And that is surprising to me because of the options that you have. Like this, it's the same thing with the offense. You have enough arms. You really don't have an excuse to not throw out a capable staff. And I think they ultimately will, and I think they're getting closer. But through the first 22 games, some of the inconsistencies there in the pitching has surprised me. And then last, for LSU, it's those freshmen that have just come in and been incredible so far. And it's, again, every time I described Derek Career, I said, yeah, guys, that's what it looks like. Like him. We've seen that type of player come through here plenty and have a lot of success. But y'all, the numbers he's putting up, he's hitting 434. He's got a whiff percentage of 2%. I mean, he's reached base in all 22 games. He's been incredible. Casey Evans on the mound. I mean, again, this is a guy who's a two-way guy and a highly thought of. He's a top 20 shortstop out of high school coming in as a freshman this season. He decided to put all that to the side and just focus on pitching. And you saw the velo tick up. And he's got this incredible ability already at 18 years old to just compose himself and reset and refocus on the mound when something's not going well. And that's just not normal. We've seen some great freshman pitchers recently come through LSU. But you've also seen some of the greats not burst onto the scene like that. Like, even Aaron Nola, it wasn't until, the middle of his freshman year where they really were like, okay, go. Now, Kevin Gausman was in the rotation from day one, but struggled at times as a freshman. Casey Evans has just been phenomenal. Like, Casey Evans has been more Alex Lang coming in and going 12-0 as a freshman than he has been anything else. And that's great to see, and it's something that LSU is desperately needed, because without Gavin Guidry, he has solidified the back end of your bullpen right now. 4 saves already. So those guys, and of course, William Schmidt factors into that category. I mean, the guy just doesn't belong. Like, he looks incredible. But those three, how there has just really been, or how it seemed like there's been no adjustment period, specifically for Evans and Curiel, that is massively, massively impressive. And yeah, I'm surprised. Like, for that, I am surprised. You could see it in the preseason and the fall. It's like, okay, yeah, that's what it looks like. But for them to take it to this level in the regular season already, very impressive. Now, we'll have to see it continue going forward. But so far, man, that's really, really good. Really, really good. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Y'all smash the like. Get subscribed if you haven't already. YouTube and your favorite podcast app. Follow me on social media and be here next time for more. It's Musso at the Box, presented by Got Lit Light Installers.